Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Just gonna give it a few moments and send out a blast to make sure everyone's here. Uh,
Right. Okay. Cool. Vivek, Lily. Okay. Perfect. And I'll present it just a few minutes after.
okay, great.
Cool.
Um, and while we're taking a moment to get started, I was curious if anyone wanted to share about their startup, what they're building, so we can know a little bit more about what made you interested in joining today's session. Um, I don't know, I'm gonna call out Vivek if you're there. Anything you'd like to share?
Sure. We've actually gone to market already and
Okay.
have run rate and ARR. It's a software solution, a SaaS solution. We compete with Zendesk and ServiceNow. It's an AI native agentic tool for internal and external ticketing, but its core, it's a flow automation tool.
Okay.
It's a no-code platform, so it offers a lot more, and we've got a suite of solutions behind the ticketing piece. We're using ticketing as the wedge, and right now the struggle is, of course, getting people's attention. Um, so I thought any tidbits that I could pick up from a GTM perspective from this would be of value.
Okay. Perfect.
Nice, great, nice. Sumati, did you want to share?
I'm sorry, I just joined. What are we sharing?
Just what made you interested, if you're building anything in the field. Yeah.
So, hi Natalie, hi everyone else. So, yes, I'm building Ladle, which is an AI-powered sous chef to help nourish women in midlife. So, we are we're focusing on nourishing women, helping them cook. This is targeted for women 40 plus, right? So, who are going through perimenopause and menopause, and
Hmm.
helping. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I thought somebody was saying something. Um, Helping them focus on cooking what they want based on their health goals and dietary preferences.
Okay. I am taking notes, by the way. So if you see me looking down, that's all I'm doing.
That's good. So you and Zoom together, you're both busy taking notes. That's good.
Absolutely.
Great. Gail, did you want to share anything about yourself and what made you interested? We can't hear you even though you're unmuted.
She's still muted.
Yeah. Yes, can help.
Oh,
Yes, I heard you.
okay.
Okay.
So I have a patent pending product. I've developed a series of diapers. One diaper is detecting UTI, and the other diaper is a treatment diaper. So I have diapers in advanced categories like for bed sores, for STDs, so I'm working in the adult diaper market.
Okay.
Nice. Great.
All right.
Nice. I guess right before we get started, I'll just do a quick intro of Funding Breakthrough Lab. So for those of you who don't know us, we're a nonprofit pre-accelerator. It started from me being a software engineer and eventually trying to do my own startup. I'd always been volunteering with Girls in Tech. And I realized going from 0 to 1 was very different than working at a startup. And so at that time, unfortunately, Girls in Tech was shutting down. So I helped launch Women's Founders Bay and then eventually funding Breakthrough Lab, which is the pre-accelerator. And so we're a community of 23,000. We often get underserved founders, women, immigrant founders, first-time founders, sometimes people with 10 to 20 years of expertise doing their first startup. And it's pretty much people who are, needing access to network information, and we also get a lot of people who are impact oriented. This was our last cohort. We ended up all going to startup grind together. And we get a bunch of investors that we pitch throughout the program, mentors. We cover a wide range of topics, helping founders understand what they need to be successful as founders. We have a founders first versus startup first. We care about the founder success. So we teach things like how to maintain control of your company. And we get a bunch of speakers throughout our program. And so if you haven't already subscribed, this is maybe how you found out our events, but it's luma.com/FBL, and our website is fundingbreakthroughlab.org. And our next cohort will be early next year. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Ariel for her exciting workshop.
All right, thank you. I'm just admitting a couple more folks. I saw they were in the waiting room before we get started. So for the folks that have joined, we're just sharing a little bit about what everyone's working on. And I'm just now getting started with the presentation itself. Natalie so graciously went over funding Breakthrough Lab and what it's all about. So you didn't miss much if you're just joining us now. I know someone had to hop off onto a call and come right back. So I hope you are back. So this gets started. Before I start sharing slides, there's only a few slides to be honest. I will introduce myself and a little bit about, why I'm focused on, supporting go-to-market for FemTech and HealthTech founders. So I'll go over that in a nutshell. But if anyone has questions, this is an open session for us. There will be a Q&A at the end. So, if you have questions, feel free to ask me throughout, but we will have a dedicated time slot for that as well. You are in the right place. We have about another 50 minutes together, and we will keep going. So, and if you haven't already, check out the chat. Natalie has put the subscribe link to Luma, and I've also put the link to connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm so happy you're here, and I'm looking forward to sharing some more tidbits about go-to-market and revenue operations with you all. So with that said, I will start to share. Okay. Can everyone see my screen okay? Thumbs up. Yes. Thank you, Natalie. All right, so I am Arriel Balogun. I am a go-to-market consultant, and I am focusing specifically on FemTech and HealthTech founders. I have a little bit of a story there, but I will go into my background first. So I have spent over 13 plus years in startups in the Silicon Valley and San Francisco Bay Area with understanding how fast B2B markets move, especially in SaaS. I want to use the same knowledge and learnings and also pitfalls to help founders that are early stage as well, so that we can figure out paths to revenue so that you can maintain, again, like Natalie said, maintain control of your business, understanding those hurdles. And if you are looking to get support from VCs, kind of what they're looking forward to hearing from you as a founder and things to start to consider in terms of your operations. So this is the roadmap to revenue, a practical workshop for early stage founders. I am Ariel, founder and CEO of Infinitely Elevated. So I'm just going to put I think one person on mute. But if you have to come off and just ask questions, by all means do so, and I will keep an eye on the chat as well. All right, so I've got that pulled up. Okay, I'm going to admit. All right, welcome, welcome. So we're just getting through the introduction. The first slide, this is, and like I said, I'm going to keep the slides very short. I want to have more of an open dialogue with you all towards the end, but if there are questions that are pressing, feel free to put them in the chat as we go along. So on this first slide, I'm talking about know your buyer. So getting this wrong costs you time, money, and the wrong customers. So really figuring out early on, if you haven't already, who's going to buy your product. We typically see like a B2B market. So if you want to sell your product or service to another business, that is an avenue or a path you can take. Or with some products and services, there is a B2B2C route. So there's going to be an intermediary of some sort to get from your buyer to your end user. So really understanding how you want to tackle one or the other. We'll get into that on the next slide, but I like to focus on three key areas. of each of the slides. So you'll hear a lot about people. So if you have yourself or a small team that you're working with, there's, founders out there that are working with volunteers, really understanding how you can leverage your entire team, your processes and your technology to support where you're going and where you're growing. All right, so on the people side, know who signs the check and who uses the product. Oftentimes, those are not the same person. So really understanding like who is actually going to buy your product and how they'll use it, how they will also come back. We'll talk about customer retention in a second. So there were some folks that said, okay, so that we have a no-code ticketing platform. We have a platform to nourish women in using their health goals. And there was an adult diaper founder that's here today. If either one of you want to come off mute and just briefly tell me about who do you think your people are? Who's buying this from you? Yeah, Gail, thank you.
Right. So I'm not in market yet, but I've done extensive research as to who my buyer is. So uh, there's basically women over the age of, like, I'd say 65. It's very, very common for people to still get UTI infections. The problem is with an older person, there are no symptoms. So
Mhm.
you don't even know you have it. So if you are wearing a diaper, it's open to anybody. It's also open to men because the problem is there's fecal matter, right? So that people, when they're wiping themselves when they're older, chances are they get a UTI, but they don't even know that they have it. So the fact that my diaper will not only detect, because it has a series of beads in it that turn color, so you're going to know instantly that you have it. And then it will trigger you to go to a doctor. The other thing is I'm also bringing to market the packs that we're developing will be like half diagnostic and then half treatment. So the other diaper will have special creams embedded in the diaper that will also be able to treat topically the infection, because there are creams that can do that. That's number one. That's one diaper. Same
Mhm.
thing with like STD. It will at least alert you. People, unfortunately, this is going to make you all laugh, but STDs are rampant in nursing homes
Yes, they are.
because there's like four men for one woman. So the man is like the butterfly, and they're just spreading STDs. 70% of people in nursing homes have STDs. So don't even get me started on that one. So, we're just trying to cut down. I mean, all these people are wearing diapers. So we know, I mean, I have a vast market for what I'm doing. And bed sores, it's anybody who's actually sitting in a chair too long in a hospital bed, even if they turn people. The problem in the United States is the only way we've dealt with bed sores at this point is adhesives. So we're taping people. So my diaper has like aloe vera in it. It has lanolin. It's embedded with not only a thicker cushion of cotton, but it has therapeutic things in it. So at least the diaper not only can treat, but it also fits differently. There's just the construction of what we've done.
Yep.
So anyway, that's what I'm working on and who
Thank you.
my customer is.
Yeah. Thank you, Gail. So in this case, Gail can go direct to the folks that need them. So if I am, an older person and I am maybe in, an elderly facility or something, like she could have two different buyers, someone that needs it or a family member that can purchase it on behalf of the person that is in need of it or is, maybe falling prey to those symptoms. Or if she wanted to go another route and say, well, hey, can I partner with companies that can also sell my product for me as well? So those could be the difference between the buyers and the users. If and I just wanted to make sure that we had a distinction so the folks in the room really understand where their product or service could play. So thank you, Gail, for sharing. Next is process. So in the middle, so understanding your back end process. It's the unsexy administrative work, if you will, but really understanding the person who will benefit most, the projects that potentially companies will have to say like, hey, do we have an initiative to really go after, say, STIs, for folks over a certain age or in our facility? How are we going to combat that? So that could be a project or initiative that could be, in progress of thinking about, but how are we thinking about coming up with a solution? So that's project. Next is priority. How much of a priority is this to a person or to an organization that would need your product or service? the paths that you can take. So is it, do I make connections with individual users or of my product or service, or do I make connections with other founders, or, go to events where there's, other other types of buyers, I would say that. So individual buyers or corporate or entity buyers. It could be nonprofits. You can think outside of the box there, but where is a natural fit of where your product or service can go if the end user is not your ideal client? So really thinking through that up front, because that helps you think about your strategy in the way of how you get your clients and how you keep your revenue flowing. And then the next thing, what problems are you solving? So we had someone that said, we have a no-code ticketing system. It's going to go up against a Zendesk. Well, what actual problem or pain point are you solving with your no-code solution for your ideal buyer or user? So those could be different. Buyer or user could be different. So really thinking about that. I kind of skipped over the task, but I will get back to those. I really want to get over to technology. And then I can kind of go into some tasks around action-oriented things. I know when I go to events, I want to have some good takeaways. So that is why we're going to go back to those. But on the technology side, run discovery early to uncover budget range, timeline, decision processes, and your competition. So Vivek mentioned like, hey, we're going up against Zendesk. There are other players out there. That is exactly what you as a founder would want to uncover more so you understand the playing field that you're going after. And then lead with the pain point that your product directly solves. So that's on your technology side. Um, let's take a step back and go to the task really quickly. So back to people, map the full buying committee. So if there's a champion, someone that's really excited, hey, we need the adult diapers in our facility. Great. That's your champion. They most likely won't be the person, writing the check over to Gail. But what we can do is understand, like, all right, we have a champion. How can you enable or train that champion to sell on your behalf? And I'll let that land for a second. Because if that champion is very, very excited about the product or service that your pain point solves in their organization or them as a person, who's going to write the check or keep writing that check to you for your product or service? Okay. Then on the process side, if you can't name a specific human at the company, you're describing a ideal customer profile, not a buyer. So we want to say, I know, I'm going to pick on someone here. I know Christina Blue at this company. She is my direct person that I can embed in terms of my process to understand how I can get more traction in terms of this organization or with this family that maybe has, folks that are struggling with a specific pain point. So I've kept it very broad now. I want to offer just an opportunity if anybody has a question to go ahead and drop it in the chat before we move to the next slide. And feel free to take screenshots, and there will be some goodies and giveaways as well. If I'm speaking too broadly, I'm trying to make sure that I encompass everyone in the room. So if there are more specific questions that you have, or you don't want to give away your cool and unique idea, your business idea, we can set aside time privately. But if you have the questions, by all means, feel free to drop it in the chat. So any questions there before we move on to topic two? So this is Know Your Buyer. We'll move on to topic two shortly. No questions. Great, great, great. Okay, so this is Know Your Buyer. Next is build a sales process that scales. So I'll just start with a little bit of a storytelling on this one. I go to tons of events. I go to a lot of events for small and medium-sized businesses where folks are trying to grow, they're trying to network. And a lot of what's covered is, we call it top of funnel. And what that means is people are focusing on leads. Oh, if I could just get you 100 leads, if I could get you 1,000 leads, how would that change your business? But we have to think of the flip side of that. If you were to get those 100 leads, how can your sales process and systems support that activity? And so that's where we need to start to think about as founders, how do I then come up with a sales process that works for me? There's tons of them. There's methodologies that we use in B2B SaaS and other places. But does that work for me? Is that right size for where I am? If I'm planning to be a solopreneur or a small, nimble team, does this process actually work for us? So I'll get to that in a second. But you definitely want to make sure you're leading with confidence and consistency from your first conversation to a signed contract and beyond. That's the little asterisk there. Um, the folks that I come across, they think about how to gain or attract their initial users or client base, but then you also have to think about what to do to retain them. Again, I'm gonna pick on Vivek here again, but he said there's a lot of competition out there. So what's to stop someone from moving from your product or service to someone else's? How have you built that relationship? Oh, yes, Vivek, I saw the unmute. Do you want to come out, give me more?
Sure. Do you want me to answer a question? Just
Yes,
make
of course. Yes, let's do it.
what's the question?
So, at in the beginning, you were introducing yourself. You were talking about your no-code ticketing solution, and in that, you were saying that, hey, we're going up against Zendesk, but there's a lot of other competitors out there. So, when you say that, how will your product, in this case, really support the companies that you're going after, the teams that you're going out there? We can talk about differentiation, but how are you thinking about competition or a process that is repeatable so that you can beat out the competition that is out there?
Okay, yeah. So from a competition perspective, it's difficult. We've seen a lot of venture capital go into similar markets. I'm sorry about the background noise. If it's
No, no,
unbearable, I can mute up.
no, we don't hear a
Um,
thing. You're good.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Uh, so that lends us to believe that there is a market out there for disrupting Zendesk, which is Zendesk and ServiceNow, which is the legacy players. But because we're bootstrapped, we're moving much, much more slowly.
Mhm.
So from a lead generation perspective, we're taking advantage of third parties with various levels of success. How do we compete from a differentiation perspective? Uh, our services, our software is a lot less expensive because we don't have the costs that some of the competitors do, or the hockey stick growth expectations. We are not only less expensive, but more importantly, we're more effective because it's a unified platform, which means something to our buyer. It doesn't
Okay.
mean anything to our economic buyer. It means something to our champion.
Okay.
The AI aspect of it means that they can drive a lot more productivity. So in a help desk scenario, you're doing less response to, hey, I've lost my login or I lost my laptop, and
Hmm.
can focus on priority one tickets while automating the P3 tickets.
Got it. Got it.
So that's another differentiator.
Okay. And then tell us a little bit about your sales process. How are you handling supporting
We don't, because we're
these
not going to, we
clients? I know
don't,
you said you're bootstrap, you're getting.
right. So we're not handling it in volume. So from a personnel perspective, we've staffed accordingly with people outside of the country that can handle the SDR process, and in this country that can handle the sales process. I'm
Okay.
on all of those calls.
Okay.
And from a systems perspective, we've got CRM, and which is part of our intake process. It isn't because we're small, it hasn't gotten complex to the point where we are scaling at the rate of a venture-backed company. So it's right now, it's product-led, it's founder-led. And at some point, if we achieve our success goals, then we'll move towards sales-led.
And you will. You will. I believe in you. So let's get back to the slides. Thank you for sharing, Vivek. I appreciate me putting, you answering the question after I'm putting you on the spot. So I do really, really appreciate that. I'm getting into building a sales process that scales. This again is the second topic. If you're just joining us, like I said, leading with confidence and consistency from first conversation to signed contract. Again, that's for the folks that just joined us. From a people standpoint, as a founder, you are the sales team. I get that. I hear you, Vivek. And right now, that is your advantage. But as you talk about the success that you are planning to achieve, how do you then think about a process that doesn't involve you as a founder to be on every single call? Can we think about ways that we can begin to delegate to others? Think about ways that you can start to standardize the processes that don't need to involve you every single day. That's part of it. So I said, as your business and grows, invest in training anyone who touches the sales process very early and overestimate the time it takes before you automate anything. So we talk about AI a lot to systematize things and make it automatic, and but really think about what the goals are for using AI, what the outcomes are, and much more important than both of those is how have you already documented that. So that's the task on the people side. On the process side, we there's, like I said, many sales methodologies that are out there, but really it comes down to these kind of five key steps in your journey. You want to identify the folks that will be identify your ICP or your ideal client, ideal customer. Sometimes, again, the buyer and customer are different, but identify who those folks are. Connect with them. So, how are you planning to reach them? What's your action plan? Is it a combination of in-person events, virtual? If you're going up for VC funding, are you also, talking like pitching yourself very well? Thinking about that in terms of connecting with your user or your buyers, depending if you're going to from a B2B2C route or B2C route or direct to consumer. So that's what we're thinking about. How do you want to start thinking about a process to connect with those folks? Once you connect with them, do they qualify? So in Gail's case, where she's talking about her adult diaper, the different types that she has, someone in their 20s may not be her ideal client, and that's by design. Okay, she's building for a certain buyer or user, so that's what she's thinking about as she's scaling. Then you present what your product or service does, how it fills that gap or pain point that people have, and then you close that deal. So how do you think about closing your deal? So is it virtual? Like, do you have proposals? Are you thinking about, how many times you go back and forth between, having phone calls or meetings or demoing your product or service? Thinking about that as part of your process. Map those stages. When I say map those stages, it means what are those tasks that are involved at each part of those five-step journey. So, what's your follow-up cadence? That's also a number one thing that folks don't do very well. So, for those who have a system in place, having something to remind you from a system standpoint to say, hey, it's time to check in with Bob, or it's time to check in with Sheila, and build those connections and build those relationships. And if you're doing that as a manual touch base for yourself, do you have some automated way of doing that to stay top of mind? Again, do you have a newsletter? How do you have other ways that you are, um, I say stay top of mind, but getting your brand out there, brand awareness. Got more folks joining. Just one sec, everyone. All right. And what I have here as in terms of the task is never let a deal go quiet without a next action logged. So before I get off of this call with you, what's my next action? How do I want to chart that? And there's been times where I say, we have 10 minutes left on the call. What does it look like to have our best next steps? That's what it sounds like. Okay, great. Can I go ahead and set up a call for us on this day at this time? Does that work for you? Okay, great. So now you already have a next call scheduled and you're already kind of beating out the rat race of going back and forth through email to figure out availability and time. For those out there that use like a calendar automation system like a Calendly or, Google, productivity tools, things like that, then making sure that you send that ahead of getting off of that meeting so that you can always have that step, that next follow up so that you're not losing momentum when you're coming through for your sales process. Keep the conversation going. And then last point on this, technology. So research a simple B2B CRM, so business to business CRM. So that can be we have so many of them. There are even white label versions, but some of the more fancy or name brand ones are Salesforce. Those are really expensive. For licensing, HubSpot has a version, but if you want to think about smaller players, there's Monday.com, there's Go High Level. I personally use Go High Level. They've rebranded to High Level, but essentially, there's a lot of in terms of setting up the system, that's one thing, but there's a lot of benefits to being able to have just a simple setup and using very cool resources like YouTube to learn how to, automate some things so that you get those task reminders and you stay on top of the sale. Because nothing hurts more as a founder when you're like, yes, this is coming through the door. I'm so excited, but you didn't follow up or you didn't have the next step really outlined in terms of what the outcomes and next steps are with that person, and then the deal falls through. So that's what I'm hoping that this helps prevent with the folks in the room today. So I said, if anything, pick a system, implement a system that tracks deal information and keeps things top of mind. Take your notes in there, log your task, automate where you can, but don't over automate so that if things fall through the cracks, you're missing out on opportunities. And if AI fails you, what is your manual workaround if you are leveraging AI as part of your sales process? So we're actually doing very good on time. So I would like to open up for maybe one or two questions before we move on to the next slide. And feel free for the folks that have joined to go ahead and drop it in the chat if anything comes to mind. Okay, looking around for any hand raise or chat. Okay, let's move on to the last slide. This is actually the topic 3 of 3, and then we'll move on to a Q&A section. I have some goodies to give away as well. So just stay for that part, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what each of you are facing if you feel comfortable coming off mute or sharing in the chat. So this is the last topic. This is keep the customers you win. So I kind of teased on this in the earlier slides, but you want to reduce churn. Churn is literally losing your customer base, and I'll do some storytelling on that as well. Create seamless handoffs. So if you have a team, you're trying to move from founder-led sales to growing a team to having delegate some components of your processes, of your systems to others, making sure that you have very clear handoff rules. If you're leveraging AI to facilitate the handoffs, how to kind of spot check to make sure that those are still happening as expected before you continue to grow the business and kind of we talk about set it and forget it. I think you should always go back to your AI periodically to make sure that you're not missing out on opportunities to enhance or elevate or optimize even further as your business grows. And then become irreplaceable. So that's a big thing. We have so many options out there for everything that we do at this point in time. So if you are in the process of scaling your product, scaling your service, how to make sure that you are so ingrained into someone's process, into someone's life that they don't want to change. That if they never had Gail's adult diapers again, they would really feel the pain of that. Okay, not having Vivek's solution as a no-code Zendesk alternative for ticketing, it's very painful. Okay, we're talking about a product and a service. I'm kind of going back and forth for examples. So your best new customer is the one you already have. They're expensive to gather, they're expensive to gain. You're marketing, you're spending your, blood, sweat, and tears to get these customers. Let's go ahead and figure out ways to keep them. So with that, I'm going to move to people, process, and technology, just like we have on the other slides. So the way that I'll start this one is a little bit with storytelling. I have worked with clients that have lost customers because AI didn't share the full story. It was only looking at the CRM or their system of record. We talked about Monday.com or High Level, Salesforce, HubSpot. you name it. It only captures a component of the story. And what was happening is that some team members weren't actually adding in the information that was necessary to get the full picture of that potential or of that client, actually, of that customer. And so what happened is in different places in the business, let in Maria. So what was happening is different places of the business, we were getting these signals where we could see that churn was kind of starting to make itself apparent and that customer loss was making itself apparent. So what happened with this customer, I'll tell you this story. There was a team dedicated to McDonald's, and the McDonald's account was a six-figure account. And what happened was the implementation was a little bit slow, for the product or service that they had. Okay, a little bit slow, no big deal. Then they lost their champion. Like, no big deal. We'll find another champion, someone that's going to say, yeah, let's go. I really love this product. Let's keep using it day in and day out. They've spent time to educate and train this person, to make sure that they were really up to snuff on keeping the internal conversations going so that if new leadership came in and they said, what's this tool that we're using? We should just throw it out and start over, or we should replace it with X, Y, and Z. What happened was those signals came together and amounted in churn. So a six-figure churn for that company. And like I said, these were full teams of technical folks, customer relations folks, or customer experience folks that were all dedicated to this single account that they lost literally overnight because none of the signals with AI told them that this was coming. So when we think about people and retention and keeping the customers you already won, 82% of what makes a customer relationship is undocumented. Those small things, remembering a birthday, remembering that, I don't know, one of my clients really loves the US Open. And so right now they're like, all over the place around US Open, eat, live, breathe US Open right now. Um, and so if that champion were to leave, then I'd say, well, what else? Now I have to start from scratch and building a relationship. Is that something that I want to do when I already have that customer? And then what also is happening is like there's a succession plan happening. So there's going to be new leadership. That was told to me. Okay, great. I need to build a relationship with the person that's coming in. Great. Luckily that person is wonderful. Love working with her. But understanding like that could be um, a gap to my business. That could be revenue leakage or a revenue loss if I don't maintain the relationship and document what I'm learning across the way. So there's other tools I'll give you guys. We have plenty of time for Q&A, but I'll give you some of my little cheat sheet notes of things that I also use to help me stay on top of those conversations without taking notes all the way, all the way through. So task, name who owns every relationship before the contract is signed. So I know that there's a person that's the head of sales. Great. Name, get to know him. There is the founder and CEO. Got it. My US Open guy. I know the succession plan, who's coming into that role. Great. I know her and have a direct line with her. So nothing is kind of gate kept, and thinking about the relationship building so that I can keep that relationship strong no matter what happens. There's some things that are unforeseen, I get it, but what we're really trying to do is mitigate those risks as much as we can. Now, the process, this is kind of going a little backwards. So, for those of you that may be in a pilot, you're still piloting or piloting your product or service, you're trying to figure it out. You are testing, if you will. Pilots can be successful because the founder is so close to them. But as you grow, as the company grows, how can you continue to make sure that the pilots that you have for your new product, your new feature, maybe Gail comes out with a different offering for the adult diaper. How do you then keep those pilots going? And as Gail grows, is there someone that is able to, oh, let's make let in. Okay. Is there someone that is able to also talk about the pilot in the way that you do as well. Are you documenting what has been successful in those pilots so that when it comes time to grow your team, they have that context as well and they can carry that forward? So scaling fails when informal workarounds and local knowledge can't transfer. So that is where it's slipping through the cracks. So I talked, on slide 2 about documentation. I'm going to talk about it here as well. So as you're moving through your pilot, your beta, your alpha, your beta testing, things like that, thinking about how someone else can mimic what you're doing as the founder and make it repeatable. Document. So build process that don't depend only on your proximity to the work. So thinking about that. Hard, but doable. All right. And then the last one is technology. So track relationship health proactively. So I said there's some tools that I use that are out there to monitor engagement signals, draft intervention plans if necessary. So if you feel like that founder's instinct, something's off, something doesn't sound quite right, I'm missing a piece of the puzzle, start documenting those things and create intervention plans before your customers go quiet and build a solution so deeply into their workflow or into their life. And so that removing it creates real friction. So the task on this is products that embed your solution into their workflow or their life. So switching hurts. It hurts them to try to go out and find a new adult diaper that meets this need. It hurts to find a solution for ticketing because this one works so well, so that you become the gold standard. You become the bar that is being set, so that if they are looking for competitors that are out there that say, well, does it do this? Does it do that? If it doesn't, that's going to really diminish my quality of the experience with that product or service. So that's where I'm really coming from with that. So don't just at the end, don't just solve the problem, become part of the process. And that's how you make churn almost impossible. So that's the last slide. The last one, we're actually going to do Q&A. So I have, like I said, a couple goodies for you. So as I've spoke across these 3 topics, and for those of you, I'm just going to kind of backtrack for a second so that you can see. So the first one for those that joined a little bit later, we have know your buyer, build a sales process that scales and keep the customers you win. That's also in the Luma as well. But right now, it's just open to you all to come off mute, to share in the chat around just having some clarity in your business if you feel comfortable. So like I said, if there's some things that are proprietary, you don't feel comfortable sharing in the group, but you want to understand further, that is what the discovery call is for. My calendar is up to date. And for those of you that says, oh, that kind of went over my head, or I'm not there yet, that's totally fine too. I have the go-to-market starter checklist where you can go through and it kind of steps you through the points of each slide in a more granular basis so that you're kind of checking off as you go. Like, have I thought about this process? Have I thought about my technology? Did I actually secure the technology that I need to start tracking these customer relationships? So it'll take you very easily through the checklist on each of the topics that we just covered today. And when you feel that you've reached a point where you still need some support or need some insight, that's where the discovery call comes into play. So it is available for download right now. And if you ever have questions, again, I'm only an email away. So Arriel@infinitelyelevated.com, or you can visit my website as well, infinitelyelevated.com. So we have just about 15 more minutes or so on the rest of our time together. And so I have 3 questions at the top, so feel free to pick one. So what are you struggling with most with your revenue data or process? How have you tried to solve those challenges so far? And if you had 60 days to focus days to build clarity in your business, what would you need to pause to be able to move forward? So those are the questions that I had. But if there's something else that has come up for you, whether it's going through the slides or a thought process, just having that clarity around that, feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat if you're a little shy. This is where we get to really get granular, and I will also share some of my tidbits and secrets that I use on my end to help with some of the administrative side of things as I'm building customer relationships as well.
So I have a question. So I'm working on a cancer screening test, and we
Okay.
are still not in the market yet. And we wanted to offer this more as like as a wellness self-pay kind of test.
Okay.
Um, and my question is, out of the various different channels that exist, right? Like B2B, you try to partner with someone like, say, Function Health or someone and try to offer it there,
Mhm.
or B2B2C, maybe try
Mhm.
to offer it through clinicians and then it goes to the customer that way, or the customer orders it through the clinician versus a direct to customer or B2C channel. How do you really
Mhm.
determine what's the best channel to start with?
Yeah, so I would look to see what's happening in your market. So on the cancer screening side, and this was kind of covered earlier on here, I'll actually move up. I'll do two things. So for those that are still, uh, they go back here. For those that are trying to get that QR code, what I'll do is I'll also put it in the chat so that I can refer back to some of the slides that I have, so that you could see too. So in the chat, you'll see me just drop the links there if that's a little bit easier for you to just click, bookmark it, and come back to it. So let's go back to this, the knowing your buyer. So on this slide, I talked about priorities. So are there certain companies that are prioritizing specific initiatives? Um, Let me give you an example. I like storytelling and examples too. So there was a hospital, and I'm actually in the San Francisco Bay Area, so in Fremont specifically, where there were just so many traumatic head injuries for children because children were not wearing helmets when they were on these like e-bikes and like scooters and things like that. And so now we're seeing an uptick. So now full departments are being slammed with so many more head injuries from children that they could not. They're like, we're trying to get the ambulance to redirect to other hospitals. We're trying to figure out how we can partner to figure out because there was an influx, a literal influx of this happening, especially as school's out, during the summertime. What can we do about this? So their initiatives were to host like a free helmet giveaway. So that was part of something that I was part of back in the day, to do a helmet giveaway. That was one thing. How can we be on the preventative measure? On the hospital side, we were thinking about how can we then have more initiatives to like internally, like internal initiatives where we can think a little bit more strategically around how we support these things. So we have a lot more education to the community. We were thinking about, like, again, partnering with other hospitals. They also had to staff up, and so that, because it was such a apparent like issue and challenge that they were going through, they had to start to prioritize. And so those are some kind of key elements where you're looking to see, like, is this a priority because there is a pain point and a larger problem at scale to figure out. Okay, so that's where you can really think about getting there in the right time, and it's really paying attention. So some of the things that I do, Google alerts. Don't underestimate those. So like the types of companies that if you're thinking, do you pronounce it Maithili?
Maithili.
Maithili. So Maithili, are you thinking about partnering with certain hospitals? Google alert. Smaller practitioners or specific doctors? Google alerts. Are they doing something that could prompt this, coming in at the right time, with the right solution, especially around cancer? So if you think about breast cancer awareness, that's something that you like think leading up to that. You don't wait until, like, I think it's October. You don't wait till October to then start outreaching. You outreach now, so that by the time, if they're thinking about breast cancer, awareness, you are now starting to position yourself alongside that. So if it is specific around breast cancer, that was just an example, Maithili. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think to some extent, but basically you're saying it's customer discovery. We need to see what the right channels are, right? Like we'll
Yes.
have to sort of, okay. So there's
You'll
no
have,
right or wrong answer upfront, like until
mhm.
we actually do the discovery process. Is
Yes,
that right?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So and being open. So for some of you that it's not quite like the cancer resource or cancer solution, if you have a product or service that folks can test, test it, and see what's out there, see who really is attracted to your product or service, and, always protect yourself and so that people aren't trying to, steal your patent ideas and things like that. So think through that as well, but testing it out there, testing new features, opening it up so that you can see like who is resonating. If I have a webinar on this, who shows up? You know, is it doctors? Have I positioned it to speak directly to that type of buyer? Like, or a practitioner and things like that. Am I speaking their language so that they understand when it's time to actually present this product or service, it makes sense for them? So the way that you speak to one type of buyer or user will be different. And so you have to market to people differently, you have to market to organizations differently, but you do want to be top of mind and think about your process and how you do it so that you're not just kind of pulling at streams and thinking about like how to match gut instinct with strategy. You will lead with strategy first.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions out there? We still have about 10 minutes. And I am checking out the chat. And for those of you that are still on, I still have the links to the discovery call and the go-to-market checklist in the chat, so you don't have to go back to the QR code. Don't worry about that. Um, Anyone else? Okay. Oh, we got a hand raise. Okay, I see Zoom user, but I don't know your name.
I rename that. My name is Anya. I am still pre-product and just working through designs, and I really love some of the questions that you had around B2C versus B2B2C. And so I'm wondering for early stage companies, how would you think about go-to-market strategy as part of product design? And then the other question I had is I see a lot of founders, including myself, is just there's we do everything, right? So how do you advise early stage founders in some of these things that you mentioned that feel like they involve a whole team, like customer relationships, some of these processes that you mentioned?
Yeah, so on the first question, thank you for your question, by the way. On the first question, when you're thinking about product and product design, like I said, get people in early to test it. And you're looking for the way, okay, I'll give you an example I'm working through right now. So there is a partner that I'm working with, and she is developing a product um, to help solopreneurs, fractional folks with their LinkedIn presence and posting specifically. Everyone's like, you gotta post today, every day, every day. And I said, well, for founders, that's a lot, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort. So how will your product be different than using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever LLM that's out there or other services that are out there? What is making it different? So I get to use my operator lens because I love tinkering with things, as well as a founder lens to say, like, if I'm looking at it from like optimizing my time, like how can we do this faster? How can we make this like low effort for me to do if I didn't want to hire someone out to do this? So in her way, she's asking for a small cohort, so she's keeping it very buttoned up. Her number, I think, is around 20 individuals that she can um, facilitate this process of taking them through the initial part of their product. Taking them through the process, getting feedback regularly, and thinking about that in terms of her process. What can she actually handle? She's a mom. She's, got other things going on as well. And so that's how much she wants to tackle in this first one by herself. So that's on the product side and really getting people out there. Yes, she has promoted it through, you know, founder groups and WhatsApp groups and things like that to gain traction. She has surveys to help as well, so that you're not just, waiting on, meeting with every single 20-person individual to get their feedback. So she has a systematized way to get the feedback that she needs. On your second question, where you were asking about a team for, customer success, right now, if you're still in the early stages, just document what that could be. And you can use an LLM for that. Like create a, separate chat just for like my ideal customer success, journey could be, what that could look like, what would that entail, what really resonates with your early stage users that they like and love and adore about your product and service so that you can make sure that that is carried through as you grow and evolve your product or service. So that's something you can think about just to start documenting and thinking about those steps up front as you are growing your team. And then you can say, hey, I have this long chat, or hey, Claude, can you help me summarize my customer journey and my customer experience um, as I am developing what that could look like in terms of having a human support, or if you want AI support to do that, how I can fill in some of those gaps so it's not just on me as well. So I would say document first, but keep it going, a regular thing that you can do. I use, and just we have about 5 more minutes just as a time check. Something I use a lot as well because I have my children, I have my business, I'm in between meetings sometimes. Having those separate chats really helps me, and I dictate. So I use Whisper Flow because I tend to be long-winded at times. Um, but I use Whisper Flow so that I can get my ideas out there, log it in a place that is not a notebook because I just am terrible at notebooks, but then I can recall that information a little bit quickly. And when I say take notes, that's written notes or Google Docs. I'm terrible at it. So that's also being very aware about myself and my capabilities and how quickly I need to move throughout the day. Um, Another one that I use is Granola.ai. They have a free freemium model where I can just kind of take notes in the background and run it. If you're in one of the states, you have to let folks know that you are recording. That is part of it. So just having the note taking and the transcription so that you'll be able to recall that information at a later date rather than scrambling to take notes while you're on live calls. That's very critical to not do while you're on sales calls. So just keeping that in mind. Still getting the context you need for yourself, for your business, but also being very present during your sales calls as well. Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome, of course.
Thank you so much, Ariel. That was very informative, and I definitely learned a lot. And also, taking note of things like remembering people's birthdays and those little things actually do matter. So, yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, well, I thank you all for joining. I put my LinkedIn there, so if now's not a good time, you don't have questions yet, you can still connect with me. There's still a lot more resources and information that I share pretty regularly. So I am an open book. Feel free to reach out when the timing is right. But by now, you probably still have more questions, and you're like, I have to add to my task list. But you have someone in your pocket as a resource when you need it.
Great. Great. And we have a few other events coming up. We have another workshop next week, and there's a few in-person events next week as well. So they're all on the FBL calendar, so luma.com/FBL. And thanks everyone for joining. And thank you again, Ariel, for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for having me.
Thanks for
Bye,
putting it
everyone.
together.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.